Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene right here with Jet on Metal Messiah Radio. Today we have with us a special guest. We have drummer and Juno Award winner, oh boy, Oli Beaudoin of Kataklysm. Welcome to the show, Oli.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So Oli, what was it like for you winning that Juno Award?
It was actually a huge surprise. We really didn't expect that, especially considering the style of music, which is a little bit underground. You know, all these pop artists around like Justin Bieber and stuff like that. So we really look like super weird at the awards ceremony. But when they called up the name, we freaked out basically, and it was a really good surprise, but very welcome considering all the efforts for this last album of Ghost and God, which came out in 2015. So yeah, man, very cool.
So Oli, how old were you when you first started playing drums, and was drums the first instrument that you played?
I started playing drums around, I would say 11, 12. I was just messing around. I was always surrounded with guitar players and stuff like that. So I was just, noodling on the side guitar and stuff like this. But I was playing not really seriously, let's say, but I started more seriously around maybe 17, 18, something like that. And I wanted to go in a university or college in music, and I had problems because I wasn't the academic type doing sight reading and all this stuff. So I had problems with the auditions. The playing part was not a problem, but all the theoretical stuff, the harmony, the singing. When they do the audition, you have to know all about that as well. So let's say I kept on, doing music always, but I went to school in social sciences, sociology mainly. So I kept on doing drums on the side always with lessons and stuff like that, and it worked out. After a few years, I managed to play with a few bands. My first band that was signed was Neuraxis. So this was around 2000, I would say 2009, 2010, around that time. And now I'm with this amazing band Kataklysm, and I'm fully participating not only in drumming but also writing, production, and recording. So it's even better than just playing drums. You really feel more fulfilled, I would say, as a musician when you're allowed to do all that as well.
And with all the fast drumming and hard hitting that you play with this band, has it ever taken a toll on your body? And what do you do personally to help from preventing injury?
It absolutely took a toll. Over years, it's like any repetitive movement. Even if you're a clerk at the grocery store or just like a secretary, there's always the repetitive movements. They become a problem, for the body. We're not made for that. So, I had to, I was around 150 pounds, let's say, 10 years ago, and I went to see all those therapists, physiotherapists, chiropractor, all those guys, and basically the only solution to all that was to gain a bit of muscle mass to prevent your tendons from getting messed up with all the harder you hit, the more you have the vibration coming through the stick and creating problems. So, basically, if you plan on, playing for many, many years, heavy music, you better get, in good shape. Otherwise, it's a matter of time before you start getting problems. So, I had numb arms, numb finger, bursitis, started, stuff like that. But I always managed to keep it under control and stop at the right time before it got too bad. So, I figured it out. It's actually an everyday struggle, Always the elbows a little bit, with a little bit of inflammation. But I mean, every drummer who's professional or playing seriously is going to encounter this at some point. So, my advice is try to stay in shape before problems show up, because prevention is always better than, problem solving. Once it's started, tendonitis and stuff like that, it's really hard to get rid of that.
And now, do you have any pre-show routines that you have to go through before you go out on stage?
It depends the style of music you're doing. With my band right now, I'm doing a few things to just warm up, get the blood flowing, push-ups, stuff like this. I bring tension bands on tour. And if you want to warm up with the arms, the wrists, I would recommend playing on something that doesn't rebound, so you get used to having basically no feedback from your instrument, like for the pad or the heads. So then it's a bit like walking with a big sack of potatoes on your back. Then once it starts to really run, you take the bag off your back and you're ready to run. So same same thing if you're practicing on a couch or just something that absorbs the rebound. Then it gets easier once you get on stage for on a real drum set with cymbals, and that rebounds way more than that.
And so, what is your current setup, Oli, and what kind of kit do you have now?
Right now, I'm using a Pro Sessions. Basically, I have a kit. It's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 with 2 kick drums, 22 by 18. I'm trying to have the kit set up kind of symmetrical. I started playing my early years lefty, and then with open-handed. So my first teacher told me I was I started playing right-handed. Sorry, open-handed, and then my first teacher told me, "Dude, you're wrong." So I had to actually relearn everything to play as a real lefty, which I'm actually not. And it was quite hard at first to relearn, especially the feet. So now the way I basically came back to a weird hybrid between those two methods is basically to have your kit set up, no matter what side, lefty, righty, doesn't matter. You try to have your kit set up symmetrically, like one right on each side, if possible one hat on each side, so you can actually have stuff that goes, when you're listening to a stereo mix, stuff that goes around left, right. So your drumming is not only parts, but you actually can voice and think about what you're doing and make it interesting in a stereo spectrum. So so you could switch right, you could switch left on the right, make the parts go a bit around, and so it keeps the songs interesting and I would say dynamic.
And now, what is your foot technique, Oli? And do you have to switch it up depending on what kind of music you're playing?
Yeah, definitely. When it goes really, really fast, I remember in my early days, sometimes I got tense for no reason, just out of the blue before starting some shows. So to overcome this problem without having to warm up too long, I started working on the heel toe technique, basically double strokes on kicks. And it was just, it felt really good for me. It took me about a month to really to feel comfortable with that. And so when it goes above, I would say 220 and up in 16 notes, I usually play in double strokes. And when it gets a bit slower than that, depending, sometimes I could play doubles at 200 if it allows you to make some patterns that are sometimes way easier because your legs are moving half time basically, so you can take up different patterns and your body is moving way less. So it's very efficient, I think, in terms of how much energy you're putting and especially how much thought you're putting in your feet. Mm-hmm. So it allows your arms and the upper body to focus on other stuff like dynamics and hitting hard and playing crazy patterns. So I started basically doing this heel toe stuff since Neuraxis, I would say, because it was so technical. Odd time signatures, crazy beats, tempo changes. So your brain is so involved in just keeping up with that you don't want the body to be a burden, or just to always have to struggle with all the stuff you're playing. So.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Kataklysm, and was Ex Deo a part of the package?
Yeah, Ex Deo was a part of the package because it's basically a side project from the band. It's kind of like an easy way I got in the band in a way, because my first band, Neuraxis, they had a member at the time called Stephen Henry, who was the founding member of Neuraxis, which actually worked as a light guy for Kataklysm. So when they started having issues with their drummer at the time, Stephen just recommended me, and it was really cool. I could actually get in touch with the guys. I had something like a 2 weeks notice to learn this, gravity blast technique before the first show we played, which was the 70,000 tons of metal. Was in early 2014, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 13. Anyway, it was around 5 years ago. And it worked out well, and now it's just getting better and better every year.
And so today we're here to talk about the new album from Kataklysm called Meditations, releasing June 1st off Nuclear Blast Records. Now, this is your third album now with Kataklysm. Was the writing process for you easier this time around, now that you've been in the band for a while, Oli?
Absolutely, because the guys now, they trust me a little bit more. At first, they didn't really know what to expect because I was in this, crazy technical band, so they thought he's just gonna change the style, make it just nuts, not listenable, kind of. So what happened is after a few albums with, working on the arrangements, especially on Ghost and God, and Waiting for the End to Come was more like putting drum tracks on top of guitars. In Ghost and God, I worked on arranging the songs a lot. And then that last one, I could actually write songs as well, taking out my guitar and, making it really like, I think the chemistry also between the guys was getting better and better. So this last one is just, you can tell it's up there. So some songs, I popped in to play a few lines, to try to get some textures, bring different ideas. I would be more than happy when the guys, they come and they say, hey, try this beat, So same thing, we all did this album together. So, everyone contributes to every part. I mean, you're there and you're just trying to make the best music possible in the end. It's not about the parts in themselves. Sometimes I don't even like that much to play some parts. It's just, this is what I hear there, so that's what has to be played there. So it's really how we write together, basically. So it's about the music, not really the drum parts. Back then, with Neuraxis, it's kind of like I would say the style of music is so crazy that, the people are used to so much content, so much density, so much information, that sometimes it's hard to actually enjoy what you're doing. The parts are just nuts. With this band, it's more about feel, groove, I would say, like more listenable music, like to the untrained ear. So I really, really enjoy that, and it helps also connect with the listeners, a bigger audience, I would say, that are more open to, I would say, not commercial music, but something that's more like that's easier to listen to. You would say, like, you wouldn't listen to Neuraxis trying to meditate, for sure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The style of music, with the new album, you can listen to that in the gym, you can listen to that on the road, you can listen to that, anytime. And what I think we're so lucky with Kataklysm is the spectrum is very, very wide. There's like some songs that you're going to hear on the new album called, for example, Guillotine, the opener is completely nuts, grind, 230 BPM, crazy stuff. And then, some other songs more like your motorbike song, super big riffs and stuff like that. And then the album ends with a super epic, melodic, kind of like, not a power ballad, but I would say like a very visceral. And so it's very cool that we're allowed in this band to basically go all directions, basically, and that the fans, they still like it. Some bands, they have to have this type of sound and repeat it over and over because that's what people expect from them.
And did you do anything different on this album? I mean, did you try anything new or new techniques or add anything different as far as your parts?
Well, I actually played a few guitar parts, but
that's
as
cool.
far as drum parts go, which is fun because like I was saying, it's about the music. So it's cool if you can contribute in any way possible. But in terms of drum parts, definitely I tried to add even more like refinement, I would say, more ghost notes. Because the trademark of Kataklysm was this Northern hyperblast, super crazy, like a 16th note rolled on snare with one hand and the trigger and all this stuff, which cuts in a way your dynamics, it restrains a bit how you can play, because when you hit, it's basically 100% or 0%. There's no nuances, there's no dynamics. So on this album, we're trying to bring the style, I wouldn't say rock, but I would say it goes, a bit wider in terms of drums. So you're gonna hear the ghost notes. Finally, you can actually hear what's going on, and we're really blessed to have this mix engineer, Jay Rustin, who also did the Anthrax and more rock bands. So he's kind of more used to deal with how can I say, more organic drumming. Mm-hmm. So you can hear dynamics. It's not just full out all the time, big bass drum and crazy snare hits. So you're gonna hear when the album comes out what I mean, basically.
And Oli, being a producer and a mixer yourself, does this make you more critical to the writing process?
Well, absolutely. absolutely, because it's not only about the parts, it's really far from that. It's basically, the parts are, the sum is more, than just the parts together. And your point as a producer is always to make the best music possible. So you're not thinking from an instrument perspective, you're thinking from a song perspective, and then all the instruments become tiny parts in this whole scheme. So it changes a lot the way you're seeing songs, and it's a luxury, I would say, to be able to do this job, and have the people around to trust you doing this job, because you can think you're doing good, but it's, for example, if you're doing something that the fans won't like, even if you like it a lot, then that doesn't mean it's going to be well received, right? So the guys now, they trust me a bit more. So they trust me way more. So I'm really happy that actually I can participate and add this, because the guys have been around for a long time, and it's, in a way, if you see it from their perspective, when I came in the band, it's a gamble to bring other opinions and other, you know what I mean, a different view on what the band could do or what the band could be. And when they said, well, it was well received, then they just opened the door even more. So now they trust me 100%, so it's really, really cool.
And now, where did you guys record this?
We recorded it at my home studio. Mm-hmm. It's called Pirate Studios, Quebec. So we recorded all vocals, all drums, all this stuff. And most of the writing was done there as well. We also recorded, or more like rehearsed stuff on the road in the middle of a tour, stuff like that. The tour we did with In Flames in the U.S., we took a week just for gathering together, exchanging ideas, jamming, stuff like that. So you're gonna hear it, and already what we heard from some medias is they say it's the best album since In the Arms of Devastation, which was like the band's classic album. Mm-hmm. So we brought back this old school type of way of working.
And what could you tell us as far as the subject matters go on this album, basically?
It's very, very wide, actually. We're trying to, right now we're about to shoot 2 music videos. It's completely different topics. One is going to be more occult, weird, dark, and the other one's going to be more, let's say, southern style. So the topics are very, very wide. It talks about, always the same message as, trying to stay up in whatever life throws at you. But it goes other directions as well. But you guys will know when you actually listen to it.
And what could you tell us about the cover art and the artist? Because there's a lot going on there as well.
Yes, this is completely nuts. They really went like on the other way. They basically gave what we say in French carte blanche. So they told the artist, which is Maurizio's wife, Susie. So she actually had like a lot of room to just go whichever direction she wanted, and as you can see, it breaks the tradition from the typical beast they had on the other albums like Priva. So this one is more like I would say weird and crazy to fit also the musical spectrum of the album.
Is this going to come out on vinyl too? Do you know, Oli?
Yes, it will.
Okay, because it's so much.
And on vinyl, it's going to look super badass. You can have it and see it in high res.
I was just going to say, because there's a lot going on everywhere that you look at this cover. There's something different, and there's so much going on that I don't think that you could really capture in like a CD cover. You got to have that vinyl.
That's why people love vinyl so much. You can have like the big image. It's not just like streaming that on your phone, so you can actually see all the details, and it's cool for the artist itself. For sure.
And now, what kind of touring are you guys going to be doing?
Tours. Right now, we have stuff that hasn't been announced, but so far what we have lined up are the festivals this summer. So we're playing around, I think, 11 or 12 festivals all over Europe. Mm-hmm. Then we should be touring in October and November again in Europe, but I can't tell yet since it hasn't been announced. And the U.S. tour is going to come not too far after that.
And so
yeah, a lot of stuff in the works. And we're leaving with Exdo actually in a week and a half.
Wow.
So it's going to be completely mad, crazy times ahead.
So you're doing 2 videos today, and then you're leaving for tour in a week and a half?
Yeah, today we're here at Nuclear Blast in California. Tomorrow and the day after we're shooting 2 music videos, then back home for rehearsals for Exdo. Then Exdo show in Montreal, then the whole 6-7 weeks tour in Europe with the Exdo. And yeah, it was no break, but it's how it works in this world now. You have to do it all the way or not at all.
There you go.
It's all good.
So Oli, when you're not touring and just sitting at home on your kit, what's your favorite kind of music to play?
Actually, don't listen to much metal because we're making so much music ourselves. I'm listening to crazy stuff. Sometimes just like medieval, like troubadour stuff. Sometimes more like blues. Anything that's not too like high octane music. I only listen to more crazier stuff when I'm actually working out or stuff like that. So I'm trying to decompress from all the high energy stuff we're always sinking into, or
Now, I would assume that Kataklysm takes up a lot of your time, but is there any other projects that you're involved with?
Yeah, I have to confess, I work more than just with the band, but the band actually takes already 100% of my time, so I'm doing overtime with other stuff. For some productions around, so I produced last year I Exist. It's like a avant-garde death metal, crazy cyber band, and I also work on other rock productions and more like local acts from Canada. Also, I work with one band from Salvador. It was 2 years ago. So when I can find time, I try to fill it up with stuff. There's just never any break anyway.
and Oli, what would you give as far as advice to young drummers that aspire to be in metal music?
Well, one thing about playing drums, it's very, very cool. But I would say first discipline is always good, and in any way you're implementing it in your life. Meaning, if you're disciplined in the way you're going to work out, you're going to be disciplined in the way you're going to practice, and then you're going to be disciplined on tour when it's time to have this crazy military schedule. So this attitude in life is going to reflect in every sphere of your life in itself. So just work hard basically, but also be patient because the industry it's not easy to live out of making music. So you have to wait and keep on working your stuff. It's some openings are going to come at some point if you're really determined for it. And also I would say the second advice, it's not only always about music, it's mostly about people. So it's a music business. It's not only even if you're the greatest player around, it's going to be how to deal with people and still make your point go across, but being respectful. So it's not easy. On the road there's a lot of crazy people everywhere. It's not the most stable people, musicians and artists in general. So having to be able to deal with different personalities, I would say that's the challenge more than playing music sometimes.
And Oli, what are some of the best sites where people can go to learn more about you as well as Kataklysm?
I would say, I have my own website. The band has also its own website. I would say Facebook. It's where we usually keep in touch with the fans, Instagram, stuff like that. So you guys can check it out. But yeah, that wraps it up.
All right. Well, Oli, thank you so much for doing this interview with us today. Again, their brand new album comes out in June, and we wish you all the best this year with all you got going on with Kataklysm and the tours and all that. And stay safe out there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.